Thrown out by my cruel stepmother, I faced homelessness at 16, fighting to survive every day. Secrets, lies, and betrayal haunted me, but with my father, Martsu S. by my side, I uncovered the truth, reclaimed my life, and found love. This is my journey of survival, courage, and triumph.
Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe. Get ready for real emotional and thrilling stories from Black adults that will keep you hooked till the end.
My name is Alia Carter, and I never imagined that one night could completely change the trajectory of my life. I was 17, barely out of high school, and yet I felt the world collapsing around me. My father, Marcus Carter, had always been my rock. He was the kind of man whose presence made even the hardest days feel manageable. His words, "You are stronger than you think," Olia, echoed in my mind constantly. But at that time, he was thousands of miles away, deployed overseas, and in his absence, the person who should have protected me, my stepmother, Vanessa, had decided that I no longer belonged in our home. It started like any other evening. I was sitting in my bedroom, trying to finish a history assignment, the hum of my laptop filling the quiet. I had learned to live quietly, to not draw attention to myself. Vanessa had perfected the art of pretending. On social media, she posted images of our perfect family, smiling, happy, flawless. The reality was something else entirely. Behind the camera, she was cold, calculating, and cruel. She knocked on my door. "Olia, can you come here for a minute?" Her voice was deceptively calm, the kind of calm that makes you uneasy. I followed her to the living room, my heart already racing. I knew something was wrong. She didn't hesitate. She looked at me with that false smile and said, "I think it's time you leave, Alia. Your place is with your real family. I just can't have you here anymore." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I froze, my mind refusing to process what she was saying. What do you mean?" I stammered. My voice shook. "I mean that you're not welcome here," she said, her tone sharper now. "I want my own children around me, not you. You need to go, pack your things, and leave." I blinked, struggling to comprehend her words. She gave me 1 hour. 1 hour to pack my life into garbage bags. 1 hour to leave the home that had been my sanctuary, my connection to the father I loved and admired. I ran to my room, my hands trembling as I shoved my belongings into plastic bags, clothes, books, a few personal items. Everything I owned felt meaningless in that moment. The weight of betrayal crushed me. My step-siblings laughed as I carried my bags to the door. Vanessa had encouraged them to treat me as an outsider, to mock me. I felt smaller than I had ever felt before, like I had been erased from the family entirely. Their laughter echoed in my ears as I stepped out of the front door, clutching my meager possessions. I didn't have anywhere to go. My father was halfway across the world, unaware of the storm Vanessa had created. I wandered to the car parked in the driveway, the engine cold, and I climbed inside. I wrapped myself in a threadbare blanket I had taken from my father's side of the closet, a small piece of comfort in a night filled with despair. I stared out at the empty street, tears blurring the dim streetlights. I whispered to myself, over and over, "Dad, I wish you were here. I wish you could see this." I spent my first night on the streets in the front seat of that car. The cold seeped into my bones, and hunger gnawed at me. But worse than that was the ache in my chest, the realization that the person who should have loved and protected me, my stepmother, had chosen cruelty over compassion. I thought about Marcus, my father. He had always been my shield, my guide, the person who had taught me to be strong. And yet, at that moment, I felt completely alone. I couldn't stop thinking about the injustices of it all. How could someone who claimed to be a parent discard a child as if she were trash? How could my father's absence be exploited in such a malicious way? But amidst the fear and heartbreak, I held on to one thing, the hope that one day Marcus would find out the truth. That hope was the only thing that kept me from sinking entirely into despair. As I sat in the car hugging the thin blanket to myself, I made a silent promise. I would survive this. I would endure the nights alone, the hunger, the humiliation. I would find a way to rise above Vanessa's cruelty. And one day, when my father returned, he would see the strength she tried to crush out of me. He would see that I hadn't been broken. That night, under the pale glow of the streetlights, with my life packed into garbage bags and my heart heavy with betrayal, I realized something important. This was only the beginning. My journey had just started, and no matter what, I would not let this define me. I was Olia Carter, daughter of Marcus Carter, and I was going to survive. Asterisk the first morning after I was thrown out. I woke up stiff and cold in the front seat of my car. The night had been long, filled with every fear imaginable, hunger, loneliness, and the crushing weight of betrayal. I had nowhere to go, no one to turn to, and yet I clung to one unshakable thought. My father, Marcus, would want me to survive. I imagined him telling me, "Olia, no matter what happens, you are stronger than the storms you face." Those words became my lifeline as I stepped out of the car into the grey light of dawn. I had no plan, no shelter, and no money. The streets were unforgiving. I wandered through empty birds, clutching my garbage bags filled with my few belongings, trying not to draw attention to myself. Every glance from strangers felt like a judgment, every whisper a reminder of how exposed I was. I quickly realized that survival required more than just willpower, it required strategy. My first priority was basic necessities. I found a local community center where I could take showers. The thought of standing under warm water, even for a few minutes, felt like a small luxury. A reminder that I still had a right to care for myself. Afterwards, I wandered toward the city streets, looking for places to eat. That's when I met Mrs. Thompson, a diner waitress with kind eyes, who didn't look at me as though I were invisible. She noticed the bags and the hollow look in my eyes. "You look like you could use a hot meal, honey," she said quietly, sliding a plate of eggs and toast toward me. I tried to refuse, embarrassed, but she shook her head. "Take it. You need it more than I do." That small act of kindness ignited something inside me. Even in a world that seemed to have abandoned me, there were still people who cared. And if Mrs. Thompson could see some worth in me, maybe my father could too once he knew the truth. Despite my circumstances, I refused to let school slip away. I carried my textbooks and notebooks wherever I went, finding quiet corners in libraries or on park benches to study. Every time I felt like giving up, I imagined Marcus's proud smile. He had always believed in me, even when I doubted myself. I couldn't let Vanessa's cruelty erase that. I studied harder than ever, determined to prove that I wasn't the failure she claimed I would be. But survival wasn't only about studying. It was about navigating a world that suddenly seemed hostile at every turn. I slept in my car some nights, in shelters on others, always moving, always alert. People stared, some with pity, some with judgment. I learned to ignore them. I learned to trust my instincts. I became quiet, observant, calculating how to keep myself safe. The hardest part was the loneliness. I watched kids my age complain about homework, popularity, or social drama, and I felt a mix of sorrow and disbelief. I was living a reality far harsher than they could imagine. I wanted to cry out, to tell someone, "You have no idea what it's like to have nothing, to be discarded by the people who are supposed to love you." But I had no one to tell. No one, except the memory of my father. Marcus's voice in my head reminded me to stay strong, to keep moving, to survive for myself and for the bond we shared. Some nights, I allowed myself to dream. I imagined walking into a room and seeing Marcus there, finally home, learning the truth about what Vanessa had done. I imagined him lifting me up in his arms, whispering, "I'm so proud of you, Olia. You survived, and nothing can break you now." That dream became my shield against despair, a mental anchor I returned to whenever fear threatened to consume me. I started noticing small victories, too. I managed to keep my grades up despite everything. Teachers began to recognize my dedication. Mrs. Thompson continued to slip me meals, sometimes a hot coffee, sometimes just a knowing smile that reminded me I wasn't completely invisible. And slowly I realized that survival didn't just mean staying alive, it meant preserving who I was, keeping my mind sharp, my heart intact, and my hope alive. Even amidst the uncertainty, I clung to one belief. The truth would come out one day. Marcus would find out what Vanessa had done. He would see that I hadn't broken under pressure, that I hadn't let her hatred define me. And when that day came, I would be ready. I would show him that the daughter he believed in all those years strong, resilient, and capable was still here, unbroken, and ready to reclaim her life. That was my purpose. That was my drive. I wasn't just surviving was surviving for Marcus, for the bond we shared, and for the life I knew I deserved. And no matter how hard the nights got, no matter how cold the streets were, I held on to that hope like a lifeline. It was the one thing no one could take from me, not Vanessa, not the world, and not even my own fear. I was Olia Carter, daughter of Marcus Carter. And I was learning how to survive, but more importantly, I was learning how to fight, how to endure, and how to one day reclaim the life that was stolen from me. The day I received the acceptance letter from the university, I felt a surge of disbelief, hope, and fear all at once. A scholarship. It was more than just financial assistance, it was a lifeline, a ticket out of the chaos that had defined the last few years of my life. But as much as I wanted to celebrate, a knot of anxiety twisted in my chest. I knew that Vanessa would not let me have this victory quietly. And most of all, I longed to see my father, Marcus, to share this moment with the man who had always believed in me, even from thousands of miles away. I remember sitting on the worn couch in the small apartment I had managed to find, clutching the letter as if it were a piece of gold. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to imagine a future where I could step out of the shadows of abandonment and struggle, a future where I could build something real, something of my own. But the past wasn't so easy to leave behind. I thought about my nights on the streets, the endless wandering, the hunger, the cold. I thought about Mrs. Thompson and the rare moments of kindness that had kept me from completely losing hope. And most of all, I thought about Marcus. I could almost hear his voice in my mind. Olia, you've always been stronger than the circumstances around you. Don't let anyone, not even the people who should love you, define your worth. The scholarship brought with it new challenges. I had to prepare for college without a stable home, without the financial safety nets most students take for granted. I spent hours mapping out how to balance schoolwork, part-time jobs, and the logistics of moving into a dorm. Every decision was weighed carefully. Every dollar counted. At night, when the apartment was quiet and my body ached from work, I allowed myself to dream about walking onto campus, carrying my books and my determination like armor. I imagined seeing Marcus's face when he finally found out what Vanessa had done, how proud he would be to see me standing tall despite everything. That thought became a guiding light. The first days on campus were overwhelming. I quickly realized that the world I had entered was very different from anything I had known. Students spoke casually about vacations, expensive gadgets, and parties, things that had been unimaginable luxuries for me. I felt a pang of isolation and embarrassment, knowing that my reality was so far removed from theirs. But even then, I remembered Marcus. I reminded myself that my journey was my own, that my father would want me to focus on my growth, not on fitting in. Financial struggles followed me everywhere. Textbooks were expensive. Meals were costly. Simple necessities seemed to require planning and sacrifice. There were moments when I questioned whether I had the strength to continue. Moments when exhaustion threatened to crush me. But every time I thought about giving up, I imagined Marcus waiting for me, silently cheering me on, proud that I had not let despair take hold. His faith in me became a shield against the harshness of reality. I also learned quickly that my emotional scars were not going to vanish just because I had a scholarship. Vanessa's lies had left a residue of doubt and self-consciousness that shadowed every interaction. I struggled to connect with my peers, fearing judgment, fearing rejection, but again, Marcus's memory anchored me. I reminded myself that he loved me for who I truly was, and that same unconditional support could guide me through the difficult social terrain of college. As I settled into the rhythm of my new life, I began to see the growth potential. I joined study groups, sought out mentors, and carved spaces where I could thrive academically and personally. I realized that the scholarship wasn't just a financial ADT, was an opportunity to reclaim the life Vanessa had tried to deny me. It was a chance to prove that I was more than her lies, more than her manipulations, and stronger than the pain of abandonment. One night, after a long day of classes and work, I found a quiet corner in the library and opened my laptop. I typed a short message in a journal I had started for myself. I am surviving. I am learning. One day, Marcus will see everything I have endured, and he will be proud. I will make him proud. That promise became my lifeline. I knew the road ahead would be difficult. There were still bills to pay, classes to pass, and emotional wounds to heal, but I was determined to face it all. Every struggle, every sleepless night, every sacrifice was a step toward a future where I could stand tall in front of my father and say, I made it. I didn't let her break me. The scholarship was not just an escape from hardship, it was a test, a proving ground, and I intended to pass with honor. Marcus's voice, his unwavering belief in me, and the memory of the love he had always shown became my guiding force. Even from thousands of miles away, He was my anchor, my reason to keep moving forward, and my reminder that true strength comes not from avoiding pain but from rising above it. I was Olia Carter, daughter of Marcus Carter, and for the first time in years, I truly believed that I could carve out a life worth living, a life that my father would finally see and be proud of. Asterisk. It had been 3 long years since I had last seen my father, Marcus, 3 years of silence, of stolen moments, of unanswered questions. Vanessa had been relentless in keeping us apart, spinning lies to make sure that Marcus never knew the truth about what she had done to me. And yet, despite the distance, I had never stopped thinking about him. Every decision I made, every struggle I endured, I carried the hope that one day he would return and see the strength he had always believed I possessed. The call came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. My phone buzzed in my dorm room, and when I saw his name flash across the screen, my heart skipped a beat. Marcus Carter. My fingers trembled as I answered, my voice barely steady. Olia. His voice was familiar, warm, filled with that fatherly concern I had craved for years. Dad, I whispered, my voice breaking. The tears I had held back for so long finally threatened to spill over. I'm back in the country, he said, and I could hear the strain in his voice. I got injured. I'm in the hospital now. I want to see you, Alia. My heart soared and sank at the same time. I wanted to run to him immediately, to throw myself into his arms, but a shadow of doubt lingered. Vanessa had always been one step ahead, manipulating information, keeping us apart. I knew she wouldn't let this reunion happen without interference. Still, I couldn't ignore this chance. I began preparing carefully, gathering evidence of all the years she had lied, screenshots of social media posts, old messages where she had lied about me, and on records of my struggles to survive on the streets. I had to be ready. Marcus deserved the truth. I deserved the truth. When I finally arrived at the hospital, I felt my heart pounding so loudly it drowned out everything else. Marcus was there, looking older than I remembered, but his presence was like a familiar shield around me. He smiled the moment he saw me, and for a brief instant, I almost forgot the pain of the past. Almost, Dad, I said, my hands shaking as I placed the stack of evidence in front of him. You need to see this. She's been lying. About everything. About me. About my life. Marcus's eyes scanned the documents. At first, I saw confusion. Then, slowly, disbelief. And finally, anger. The anger in his eyes wasn't just for MIT, was for the years of deceit, for the manipulation, for the betrayal of a father-daughter bond that had been sabotaged. He looked up at me, his voice low and firm. Alia, why didn't you tell me sooner? I tried, I said, tears running freely now, but she made sure you never got the truth. She twisted everything. I had no way to reach you. Marcus's hand covered mine, squeezing gently. I should have known. I should have realized something was wrong. I failed you, Alia. I'm so sorry. It hurt to hear him apologize, but at the same time, it was healing. After years of feeling invisible and unwanted, here he was, finally acknowledging the truth and taking my side. For the first time in years, I felt safe, supported, and seen. That we spent hours going through every detail, every lie Vanessa had told. Marcus was meticulous, just like he had always been. He asked questions, cross-referenced what I had collected, and slowly, the full picture became clear. The manipulation, the cruelty, the way I had been discarded, all unfolded in front of us, like a dark, twisted story. That night, as Marcus held me in the hospital room, I realized something important. This was just the beginning. Vanessa's control over my life was ending. I had my father back, not just physically but emotionally, and with his support, I could start to rebuild everything she had tried to destroy. Marcus didn't just offer comfort, he offered strength. His presence reminded me of who I was, who I could be, and that the years of struggle hadn't weakened me, they had prepared me for this moment. He promised that he would handle the legal side, confront Vanessa, and make sure that justice was served. But more than that, he promised to be there for me, fully, finally, and without interference. That as we sat together, going over every detail, I felt a sense of empowerment I hadn't known in years. For the first time, I wasn't alone in my fight. My father, my protector, my anchor, was finally back, and I knew that with him by my side, I could face Vanessa, face the past, and finally take control of my life. That night, I slept in the hospital chair beside Marcus, exhausted but hopeful. The road ahead would be difficult. Vanessa would not go quietly, but for the first time, I felt ready. With my father back in my life, the darkness of the past began to lift. I had survived the streets. I had survived betrayal, and now, together with Marcus, I was ready to survive and fight for the future that was rightfully mine. I was Olia Carter, daughter of Marcus Carter, and the storm was only beginning, but I wasn't afraid anymore. The moment had finally arrived. After years of silence, betrayal, and manipulation, I was standing at the threshold of the confrontation I had waited for my entire life. Vanessa had built a carefully constructed world of lies, but now Marcus was back, fully aware of the truth, and together, we were about to bring everything crashing down. We had planned carefully. Marcus and I gathered every piece of evidence, screenshots of her social media posts, messages where she had lied to both of us, receipts proving the struggles I endured, even letters and records documenting my time on the streets. Nothing could be left to chance. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice, reclaiming the life that had been stolen from me, and finally freeing Marcus from the lies that had clouded his perception for so long. The first step was making contact. Vanessa still had control over some aspects of our lives, but Marcus's presence changed the dynamic. When she saw us walking toward the office where she had scheduled a meeting under the pretense of a family discussion, her confident, smug demeanor faltered for the first time. I could see the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, the tiniest crack in the armor she had built around herself. "Vanessa," Marcus began, his voice steady but cold. "We need to talk. It's time the truth comes out." She tried to mask her panic with a forced smile. "Marcus, what is this about, Olia? Can't we just—" "No," I interrupted, my voice stronger than I had expected. "No more lies, no more pretending. We have everything documented, and you are not allowed to manipulate or hide anymore." Vanessa's lips pressed into a thin line, and for a moment, silence filled the room. I watched her carefully, noticing the subtle twitch of her hands, the tension in her shoulders. She had underestimated us. She had thought I was broken, that the years of her manipulation had succeeded, but standing there, with Marcus by my side, realized something powerful. I wasn't afraid anymore. I laid out the evidence, one piece at a time, carefully showing how she had twisted reality, lied to Marcus, and tried to erase me from our lives. Screenshots of her posts bragging about her perfect family while I struggled on the streets. Messages where she had deliberately misled my father about my well-being. Documentation of my survival, of every hardship she had tried to hide. Marcus's face shifted through disbelief, anger, and heartbreak. I could see the depth of his pain, not for himself, but for me. For the years I had suffered alone, for the trust I had placed in him that had been exploited by Vanessa. When he finally spoke, his voice was low but unwavering. "How could you, Vanessa? How could you treat your stepdaughter like this? And how long were you planning to keep me in the dark?" Vanessa faltered, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Her confidence was gone. I could see the fear now, the realization that her control was gone. "This ends today," Marcus said firmly. "We are taking action. There will be no more lies, no more manipulation, and you will face the consequences of what you've done." In that moment, I felt a mix of relief and triumph. For the first time in years, I felt justice, not just for myself, but for Marcus, for the father who had been denied the truth, and for the bond that had been manipulated by a woman who sought to control us both. Vanessa slumped into her chair, her eyes wide and hollow. She realized that everything she had built, her image, her manipulation, her control, was crumbling in front of her. Marcus's anger was not fueled by revenge, but by love and the need to protect me, and that was something she could never overcome. After the confrontation, Marcus turned to me, his hand gripping mine tightly. "Aaliyah," he said softly, "you've been through more than anyone should, but you did it. You survived. And now, together, we can start building the life that was stolen from you." I felt tears prick at my eyes, not just from the pain of the past, but from the relief and love that finally filled the space Vanessa had tried to corrupt. For the first time, I felt truly seen, truly supported, and truly free. That day marked a turning point. Vanessa could no longer manipulate, no longer dictate the narrative, and no longer stand between Marcus and me. We had reclaimed our story, and with Marcus by my side, I felt a strength I had never known. This confrontation wasn't just an ending, it was the beginning of a new chapter. One where I could finally step into my life with dignity, courage, and the unwavering support of the man who had always been my anchor. As we left the office together, side by side, I realized that the storm wasn't overbought. I had my father, my protector, and my guide, and with him, I could face anything. I was Aaliyah Carter, daughter of Marcus Carter, and for the first time in my life, I felt the power of truth, love, and justice on my side. After the confrontation with Vanessa, life felt different, lighter, but also filled with a strange mixture of hope and uncertainty. The weight of years spent hiding, surviving, and doubting myself had lifted. But now, I had to learn how to live, not just survive. Marcus was by my side, steady and unwavering, reminding me that I was no longer alone. Every step I took felt like reclaiming pieces of myself that had been stolen. The first thing Marcus helped me with was stability. He insisted that I no longer live in temporary apartments or struggle through nights in libraries or on park benches. With his guidance, I secured a safe apartment near campus, small but mine. For the first time in years, I could walk through my door and feel like I belonged, like I had a home. Marcus often joked, "Finally, a place that isn't a library, a diner, or a street corner," and I laughed, grateful for his humor and presence. With the basics in place, I turned my focus to my education. College had always been my lifeline, my ticket out of the chaos Vanessa had created. I doubled down on my studies, joined clubs, and sought mentors who encouraged my growth. But this time, I wasn't just studying for survival, I was studying for my future, for the life I wanted to create with purpose and meaning. Marcus reminded me daily, "You don't have to prove yourself to anyone but you, Aaliyah. You're capable of incredible things." His words became a mantra, echoing in my mind during long nights of exams and assignments. It wasn't long before I met Derek, a kind-hearted pre-med student who shared my drive and ambition. At first, I was hesitant to let anyone in. Years of betrayal had left me wary of trusting others, but Derek was different. He didn't pity me, and he didn't judge me for my past. He listened, he supported, he celebrated every small victory. Every step I took forward. Realized love wasn't about grand gestures, it was about partnership, trust, and respect. And with Derek, I found that kind of love. Marcus noticed it too. He observed quietly at first, but one evening he pulled me aside with a rare, serious expression. "Aaliyah," he said, "I see how he treats you, how does he respect you. That's rare, and I'm glad he's in your life. But remember, nothing should replace your focus on yourself. Love should lift you, not weigh you down." I nodded, appreciating his wisdom. Marcus's guidance wasn't controlling, it was protective, rooted in love and experience. He reminded me that true support comes from empowering someone, not limiting them. Life began to feel full in ways I hadn't imagined possible. My apartment felt like a sanctuary. College became a place of opportunity, rather than survival. I spent weekends volunteering at shelters, helping teens who were struggling like I had. Inspired by the guidance and support Marcus had given me, each act of kindness was a reminder that my experiences, as painful as they were, could be transformed into something meaningful. Even with progress, challenges remained. Vanessa, though publicly defeated, continued to lurk on social media, trying to rewrite her narrative. But Marcus taught me how to handle it, ignore the attempts, focus on the truth, and trust that we had each other. "She's loud," he said, "but the truth is louder. Don't waste energy proving it to her. Live it." His advice became my armor. One night, after a long day of classes and volunteering, Derek surprised me with a quiet dinner at my apartment. Candles flickered, the smell of pasta filling the air. He took my hand, his eyes warm and steady. "Aaliyah, I know what you've been through. I see your strength, your courage, and your heart. I want to be part of your future. I want us to build a life together." Tears welled in my eyes. This wasn't just a proposal of love, it was a promise of partnership, of shared dreams, of someone believing in me even when the world had tried to erase me. I whispered, "Yes," and in that moment, realized that love wasn't just possible, it was real, safe, and affirming. Marcus was the first person I called. His voice, filled with warmth and pride, trembled slightly as he said, "I'm so happy for you, Aaliyah. You've earned every bit of this. I've watched you grow through pain and hardship, and now you're stepping into a life full of love and possibility. I'm proud of you beyond words." The days that followed were filled with planning, hope, and rebuilding. Derek and I worked together to create a balance between our careers and our lives. While I continued to focus on my education and volunteer work, Marcus remained my anchor, attending classes, volunteering guidance, and every milestone, always reminding me that my strength came not from avoiding pain, but from facing it head on. Slowly, I understood that life wasn't about erasing the past, it was about integrating it into a story of resilience, courage, and triumph. With Marcus supporting me and Derek walking beside me, I was no longer the girl abandoned on the streets. I was a woman reclaiming her life, her love, and her future. And for the first time in years, I felt truly whole. I was Olia Carter, daughter of Marcus Carter, and my life, once defined by betrayal and struggle, was finally becoming a story of strength, love, and hope. That the morning of my wedding felt surreal. Sunlight streamed through the windows of my apartment, painting golden streaks across the room. I sat quietly, a cup of tea warming my hands, taking a deep breath. Today wasn't just about a wedding, it was about reclaiming my life, my happiness, and my story. Years of struggle, betrayal, and survival had led to this moment, and for the first time, I felt fully in control. Derek was already at the venue, ensuring everything was perfect, but I wasn't worried about the details. This day wasn't about grandeur or appearances, it was about love, trust, and the people who had truly been there for me through every storm. Marcus, my father, was beside me, offering quiet support, his hand warm on my shoulder. His presence reminded me that no matter what had happened, we had survived, we had fought back, and we had built something unbreakable. Of course, I couldn't ignore the possibility of Vanessa's interference. Even after all that had happened, I knew she might try to insert herself into my life once again. She had always craved attention, always tried to rewrite the narrative to suit her image. But this time, I was prepared. I had Marcus by my side, evidence of the past, and the confidence that I had earned through every hardship. As I walked down the aisle, I noticed the whispers among some guests, the subtle glances at Marcus and me. Vanessa had made her presence known. She had RSVP'd, of course, trying to present herself as supportive, as if nothing had ever happened. My stomach twisted briefly, but I reminded myself, I wasn't the scared girl she had tried to erase. I was Olia Carter, daughter of Marcus Carter, survivor, and now, a woman stepping fully into her life. The ceremony began, and Derek's gaze met mine. In his eyes, I saw unwavering support, love, and admiration. He reached for my hand, and I squeezed it, silently promising to walk together through whatever life brought us. Marcus stood at the front, his pride evident in the way he straightened his back, his eyes glistening with emotion. He whispered softly to me, "You've grown into a remarkable woman, Aaliyah. Today, you shine brighter than ever." Then, the moment of confrontation came. Though I hadn't planned for it, Vanessa made the mistake herself. She stood awkwardly among the guests, trying to smile, trying to appear as if she belonged. Her facade cracked when she saw Marcus looking at her with unyielding disapproval. He didn't speak, but his eyes were enough to make her realize that she no longer held any power over our lives. I felt a surge of courage. I approached her, every step filled with the years of pain, endurance, and triumph that had brought me here. I stood tall and looked her in the eyes. "Vanessa," I said, my voice calm but firm, "this is my day, not yours. You don't get to rewrite our story, manipulate us, or pretend you were ever part of this journey." The room went silent. Guests exchanged glances, sensing the tension. Vanessa's face went pale, her carefully constructed image crumbling in real time. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. Marcus placed a hand on my shoulder, steadying me, a silent reminder that I was not alone, that the past could no longer harm me. Vanessa's attempt to interfere ended in her own public humiliation. She had tried to present herself as the supportive stepmother, but her lies and manipulations were no longer hidden. The power she once held over our lives was gone, shattered by truth, courage, and the unbreakable bond between Marcus and me. Watching her falter, I felt no satisfaction in revenge, only a deep, liberating sense of justice. That with the tension behind us, the ceremony continued. Derek and I exchanged vows, promising to support, love, and uplift each other. I could feel Marcus's pride radiating from the front row, his presence a constant reminder of the resilience, trust, and love that had carried me through the darkest years of my life. When Derek placed the ring on my finger, it symbolized not only our union but the life I had fought so hard to reclaim. After the ceremony, as we celebrated with our closest friends and family, I reflected on my journey, from the nights on the streets to the isolation of college, from the betrayal of Vanessa to the unwavering support of Marcus. Every hardship had shaped me. Each struggle had taught me resilience, courage, and the importance of love grounded in truth. That evening, As the sun set and the warm glow of lanterns lit the venue, I found a quiet moment with Marcus. He smiled at me, his eyes filled with pride and relief. "You've done it, Aaliyah. You've taken back your life, your happiness, and your future." I couldn't be prouder. I hugged him tightly, feeling the years of pain, struggle, and fear finally dissolve. I had learned that family isn't defined by blood alone, it's defined by love, support, and the people who stand by you when the world turns its back. Marcus had always been that person for me, and now I had Derek as well. Together, they represented everything I had fought for: safety, trust, love, and unwavering support. That night, as I danced with Derek under the stars, I allowed myself to truly feel joy for the first time in years. The past had tried to break me, but it had only made me stronger. I had survived betrayal, hardship, and doubt, and now I was embracing a life filled with love, purpose, and hope. I was Aaliyah Carter, daughter of Marcus Carter, survivor, and now truly free. And for the first time, I knew that nothing, not betrayal, not manipulation, not fear, could ever take that away from me.